Hello everyone, back tuning into today's second video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days for today's second video. This takes us to around the 12th of August, so we're going through the first half of the month with the week to 10 day updates now. Weather's turning warmer, it's going to become hotter over the weekend and into next week. We are going to have a spell of hot temperatures once again. Looks like it's going to break down sometime around Tuesday, Wednesday next week. And then we are looking at some increasingly unsettled signs, actually, within the model. So could we be on our way to a pattern change for August? That's the question I've got to answer. And I'll be talking you through the latest computer model runs in a moment. We've just released the GazWeathers.com August forecast. We're going for a warmer than average month again, but not as hot as July, not as extreme. And we are expecting more in way of rainfall as well, primarily from heavy showers and thunderstorms. So a rather more changeable, rather more sort of unsettled flavour. But there will be high pressure at times, so we will try to get back to the pattern we had through July and June as well, and May, and have hot periods at times, but not as sustained as we had in the earlier part of the summer. Very tricky forecast, though, this. It's a fine line between having a relatively warm and dry month and actually having quite an unsettled month. So check out the month-end forecast and see what you think to that. We also have a review of July's forecast, which went quite well, and a sneak peek for September also. So have a look at that, see what you think. I say this video is taking us out into the 7 to 10 day time frame. But before I get on with that, just got to say a big thank you and give a shout out to our latest patrons. So we are now up to 26 patrons for GazWeathers. So I'm going to say big thank you to Kyle Williams. Kyle Williams has become the 26th patron for GazWeathers. So big thank you to Kyle for becoming our latest patron. We are gradually working our way up towards 30 patrons, and I only started this patron page like a couple of months ago, so really surprised at how popular it's been, how it's taken off. If you would like to become a patron for GazWeathers like Kyle has done, then all you need to do is come to the GazWeathers Patreon page, and this is it right now. You just come here and sign up for a Patreon account, and then you can pledge whatever amount of money you would like to give us on a monthly basis. It could be anything for as little as $1 a month, so it certainly doesn't have to be a large amount of money at all. And by doing that, you become a patron for GazWeathers. So a big thank you to all of the patrons for GazWeathers. It is helping us to fund our website. The other way of doing it is via PayPal. This is GazWeathers' PayPal page, and you can give us a one-off donation via your PayPal account. And again, by doing that, you will get a mention in the videos, as long as you want one. A few people have chosen to remain anonymous. That's fine. Just leave a note with your donation. Tell us you'd rather not get a mention in the videos. And what happens then is it will just say thank you to this anonymous donor, something like that. But it's helping us to pay for the website, helping to keep all of the content completely free of charge. You get the shout out in the video as well. And of course, you may not want your own personal name mentioned, but you might want your website or business mentioned. We can do that for you as well through the video. So if you've got a website that you want giving a mention to, or a business, then we're happy to do that as well. That has happened a couple of times since we've been doing this as well. So big thank you to all of the patrons. Big thank you to all of the donors for GazWeathers. And yeah, it's really special what you're doing for the website. So big thank you to everybody for becoming patrons and donors for GazWeathers. Right, before we get on with the video, just do a little bit of housekeeping then, bring you up to date with the situation from July. So just finally for the CET, we talked about this yesterday, CET came out at 19.1 in July, an anomaly of over 3 degrees above average. August is in for the first day, and we're at 17.7 for the first day. That is 1.7 degrees above average. In the month-end forecast, I've said we're likely to see a CET between 17.0 and 17.9, so not getting into the 18s, not getting into the 19s either, in terms of the CT like we had in July. A warm month, yes, but not as hot as we have had it. That's the prediction in the month-ahead forecast. In terms of the UK-wide figures, so they're in as well now. We begin by looking at these in month-ahead forecast, but for anybody that didn't look at the month-ahead forecast or hasn't yet, this is what we saw for the UK during July. Very hot month in terms of the mean temperature set against 61 to 1990. So the hottest anomalies to average are through the Midlands into the southeast, where over 3 degrees above average. All other parts of the country kind of like 1 to 2.5 or 1.5 to 2.5 degrees above average. Comparing that to 81 to 2010, the more modern average is not quite as dramatic, but even so, you see that it was a very warm month indeed. And then just have a quick look at the rainfall. So rainfall set against 81 to 2010 shows that for the north, some places were closer to average. So some parts of Scotland, some parts of northern England didn't come out too far from average. Much of England and Wales comes out with a drier than average month, though, particularly so through the Midlands and down to South East. So where it's hottest, it tends to be driest as well. Notice Northern Ireland comes out the slightly wetter than average month, or some specific places in Northern Ireland, I suppose I should say. That's primarily down to just one day, Saturday, this Saturday just gone, where there was some very, very torrential rain across some parts of Northern Ireland. Overall, though, very dry and a very hot July is what we have just had. And as I say, for August, we are still expecting a warmer than average month, but not as hot as July. As far as rainfall is concerned in August, we think there's going to be a lot more regional variation, and it's not impossible that one or two places could actually come out with a wetter than average August as we go through this month. Right, getting on with the video then, thought I'd just start off with this. So this is the latest in terms of tropical cyclones and disturbances in the Atlantic. There are no tropical cyclones or disturbances, certainly no hurricanes in the Atlantic at the moment, and none are expected in the next 48 hours. It's a pretty quiet start to the 2018 hurricane season, but do bear in mind we've got a long way to go on this. We've still got the rest of August, we've got September, we've got October, probably November as well, so things are bound to liven up, I would have thought, at some point. At the moment, though, it is still fairly quiet. These are the 500 millibar height anomaly flowcharts from the Penn State University. We've got the ECMWF here on the top, and the GFS, which have a look in a moment, is on the bottom. 500 millibars, 8,000 feet, is an area in the atmosphere where high pressure and low pressure are being moved around by the jet stream running above. Red extrapolates to high pressure and blue extrapolates to low pressure. So you can see there is a bit of a change going on here in the 7 to 10 day time frame. This big ridge of high pressure that has been dominating the weather around this sort of area from the Central Atlantic through the UK and into Scandinavia. It's been there since May. That looks like in the 7 to 10 day time frame it's breaking apart. So some of that ridge is going over towards the eastern side of Europe from the Black Sea up towards kind of like Western Russia. Some of it is pulling out into the middle part of the Atlantic. So it's been a strong ridge from the Azores to Scandinavia. So we've had two high pressures at work, essentially. We've had a high pressure from the Azores, that's always in the Atlantic, but it's been ridging in from the Azores into the UK and Ireland. And then we've also had a big ridge over Scandinavia that has been sending a ridge down to the Azores high. So if you like, we've had thousands and thousands of miles of high pressure. Now in the 7 to 10 day time frame, it may only be temporary, but in the 7 to 10 day time frame, these ridges have broken apart. These two areas of high pressure have broken. And so we've broken the ridge, and we're bringing some energy down with the jet stream, actually, from the north, doing something like that with the flow and with the jet stream. So we've got these below average areas of heights to the north of the UK. They've been around Greenland and Iceland all the way along. It's been a very cool, very wet, very miserable summer for Iceland and Greenland. Some of that is starting to move southwards towards the UK. So we can't get too over the top with this. It's not going to be turning at the moment. I wouldn't say it is going to be turning that unsettled, but we are certainly bringing more energy down from the north, down from Greenland and Iceland And there is hints of below average areas of heights close to the UK as well, so a little bit more unsettled and certainly quite a lot cooler. That's the main issue with this. It perhaps isn't overly wet, but the main issue is that it's a lot cooler because the air is coming down like that. It's coming down from Greenland and Iceland, and the heat that we have had is being moved out into the eastern part of Europe a little bit more. So that's the ECMWF. This is the GFS, and it does look very similar actually. They're both going with this idea of splitting apart the two areas of high pressure. So again, we've got that area of above average heights over eastern parts of Europe towards the Black Sea and then going up to western Russia. That's a high pressure that's been over Scandinavia for the past few months. And then we've also got the area of above average heights in the middle of the Atlantic going up towards the south of Greenland. That's allowing, again, the jet stream to send energy southwards into Ireland and the UK. And then the flow and the jet does something like that. We have below average heights to the north of the country. So that would be sending energy down towards the UK with the jet stream. They both agree on this breaking of the ridge that's been extending from the Azores to the Scandinavian high pressure, which is quite a change on what we've had for a while. Well, we did have this a little bit last weekend, of course, which was a cooler weekend. Maybe that was just heralding a little bit of a change. We'll have to wait and see. This might be temporary. It might not last all that long, but it does look quite significant. So these are the 500 millibar height, and these are the GFS temperature precipitation ensembles, of course. We just looked at 500 millibar heights. So the red line here is a 30-year upper air temperature average. Just looking at London today, so I've not got time to go through the different cities and get those up for you. I'm running a bit late with the video. So that's a 30-year upper air temperature average for London. And for the next week, well, a little bit less than a week, we are going to be significantly warmer than average. So temperatures are at or above 15 degrees at 850 HPA right now, and actually go above that around the early part of next week. But then notice from around the middle of next week onwards, we get this quite dramatic drop in the temperature going on, quite a plunge actually taking place. And then beyond that, as we go through the second week of August, which is this period just here and go into the second half of the month, in fact, there's no sign of a return back to the level of temperature that we're going to have in the next few days. Actually, the ensembles are looking quite cool, you'd have to say, as we go through that second week of August. So are we going to have a situation here where we have a deterioration in August? We've had this quite a bit over the past few years. 2006 is a summer we've been talking about a lot just recently, where we had the very hot July of 2006. It's the hottest month, hottest July and hottest month on record. But August 2006 was actually rather cool and changeable. And then the heat came back in September, surprisingly, or maybe not so surprisingly. So I'm going to see something like that. Well, it's too early to say. This might only be temporary. There are one or two ensemble members, you'll notice, that start to return things to quite a hot level by the middle part of August. So maybe the Azores high will start ridging in once again. It's too early to say that this is a definitive breakdown of the summer pattern. Might only be temporary, but it does look quite significant, this change that's coming along next week. Temperature anomalies going from the 2nd to the 10th of August are coming out warmer than average, a hotter than average week coming up for most of the UK and for most of Europe as well. Precipitation anomalies look like that from the 2nd to the 10th of August, generally dry and average. So despite everything we've said, the next week still remains pretty much warmer and drier than average as we've had it since May. But if the ensemble is right, we've just been looking at, then I would expect these to start trending both cooler and wetter over the next few days. So let's just wait and see where that's going. This is how the GFS is looking for Sunday. High pressures through the country. It's going to be a very warm weekend, proper barbecue weekend coming up again. Notice the ridge isn't really there anymore over Scandinavia. So that, again, just signs of the change beginning to take place. lowering the heights over Scandinavia, not getting this strong ridge from the Azores to Scandinavia. We go through to Monday. The high pressure is drifting eastwards. We know from the height anomalies that some of the high pressure is going to go over towards the Black Sea over there, and then some of the high pressure is going to pull out into the middle of the Atlantic just there. And if the height anomalies are right, it's going to allow the jet stream to start dipping down rather like that. But for the start of next week, we still remain under the ridge. It still remains very warm or hot. Upper air temperatures look very warm. Notice again, really, really hot weather across much of southwestern parts of Europe. Alarmingly hot for Spain and Portugal. That's Tuesday. So the ridge is well and truly broken then. We've got the high pressure in the middle of the Atlantic just there. We've got the high pressure across central and eastern parts of Europe there. In between, the jet stream is trying to come southwards, and then we've got this area of low pressure that's been triggered by the intense heat across Spain, Portugal. It's moved over Biscay. It's formed instability, probably thunderstorms, and that low pressure is trying to move northwards on Tuesday. There's the upper air temperatures. They're still looking hot. It's going to be a very hot start to next week with temperatures at least into below 30 Celsius. That's Tuesday, the end of Tuesday next week, when we find we've got the thundery low moving up from the south, up from there, and then we've got this low pressure moving down from the northwest. So gradually it's just turning more unsettled. A bit of a pincer movement is taking place on the UK, and I suspect we would see showers or thunderstorms breaking out there across the country on Tuesday afternoon. Very hot. Look at that in the southeast. The 20 Celsius iceberg, we've been talking about that a lot just lately, getting very close to the southeast of the country. The 15 Celsius iceberg is in that position. So mid 30 Celsius temperatures are possible on Tuesday next week, depending on how much cloud and how many thunderstorms there are, of course. Now, that's Wednesday, so by then low pressure has taken over the pattern. We've not been able to say that very much this summer. The wind has turned into the west-northwest, and that's bringing a dramatic end to the heat wave. You've got probably thunderstorms in the east being swept away by those cooler and fresher winds coming in from off the Atlantic. You can quite clearly see that the heat is being moved into Central Europe as the cooler air coming out of the Northern Atlantic into the UK. And then once that has broken through, that cooler air, that's with us pretty much throughout the rest of the GFS run, to be honest. So we go to Thursday when the upper air temperature is looking a lot cooler across the country and fresher. That's into Friday next week, Friday 10th of August, getting cooler, fresher run of winds. And this goes on up to day 10. So that's Sunday the 12th of August, when again we've got low pressure over Scandinavia. That's the really big change, losing the blocking high that's been sitting over Scandinavia since May and replacing it with a trough of low pressure. The trough that essentially has been across Greenland and Iceland all the way through this summer is migrating, if this is right, to Scandinavia. That's allowing heights to start rising around Greenland. So actually where you've had a very poor summer so far, Greenland and Iceland, you may be in for a little bit of an improvement by day 10. You might start finding things turn a little bit drier and warmer too. Looks rather unsettled by day 10, and we go into extended range, and this particular GFS run does turn things very unsettled. Look at that. It's been a long time since we've seen charts like this. In fact, right at very extended range, so it's not worth worrying about, but by Thursday the 16th of August, we've actually got a dartboard. We call that a dartboard area of low pressure centred over the top of the UK, bringing strong winds, heavy rain, and, well, the temperatures would be quite autumnal, would you believe, with that. So this GFS run is really running with the idea, but we're going to have a very dramatic change indeed by the middle of August. And that takes us as far as we can go, which is Saturday the 18th of August. It's still looking very unsettled and very changeable. This is ECMWF. We're going to try and make some progress because it's gone on a bit too long today. So we've got this ridge again into the UK over weekend to start of next week. Very warm to hot conditions early next week, but by Tuesday, signs that the ridge is breaking down again. We've got some of the high pressure going to Eastern Europe, some pulling out into the middle of the Atlantic. The jet stream is beginning to dig back in from the Northern Atlantic as well. Upper air temperatures are still very warm to hot on Tuesday, but by Wednesday and through to Thursday, low pressure is taking over, turning things increasingly unsettled on this ECM run, and then we go into the extended range and we still look rather changeable. We tried to build the heights back in from the Azores into the south, so that would turn things a bit drier and warmer by day 10 in the south, but in the north it does still look quite unsettled. And again, the main thing is that there's no ridge over Scandinavia. Low pressure is through to Scandinavia. So whilst this ridge whilst the Azores High might try to throw its ridge up, and probably will throw its ridge up to the south, there's no big block over Scandinavia to produce a prolonged spell of anticyclonic weather in that situation. And then finally we've got the GEM, and that's showing lots of high pressure over the weekend to the start of next week. It's still going to be very warm to hot next week, but by Tuesday, just indications that things are breaking down as low pressure comes in from the northwest of the Atlantic and also moves up from the south. There's the upper air temperatures. They look hot. It's going to be a hot start to next week. Temperatures at least into the low 30s Celsius, possibly, depending on how things play out, with thunderstorms into the mid 30s Celsius. But by Wednesday, the heat is gone. Low pressure is pushing much cooler and fresher air back in from off the Atlantic. There's the upper air temperatures showing the heat is being ushered away into central parts of Europe. And then in the extended range, we're going to this rather unsettled looking spell of weather again. That's how things are looking at day 10. Sunday the 12th of August shows low pressure over Scandinavia. High pressure is through the middle of the Atlantic and also across the east and the southeast of Europe. And again, the main change, the really big change, is what's happening over Scandinavia. As we're losing the block, we're replacing it with a trough. That's changing the pattern completely. It's taking high pressure out to the middle of the Atlantic and moving it up to Greenland and Iceland. So where you've had a very poor summer for Greenland and Iceland, an improvement could be on the way. Also, eastern and southeastern Europe is going under the high pressure that was over Scandinavia. And so those areas, again, would be expecting improvement. Italy, the Balkans, down to Greece, Turkey, where it has been rather changeable this summer, turning a lot hotter and drier, if that is correct. The last thing I want to leave you with is this. It's the CFS V2 Winter 2018-19 700 millibar height anomaly. Why am I showing you this? In 1 month today, Sunday the 2nd of September, we will begin the winter updates. The seasonal winter updates that are always very, very popular at Gazov's Bay will commence from Sunday the 2nd of September, and they'll go right way through the autumn until the very end of November, when we'll release the Gazovs.com Winter 2018-19 forecast. So it's getting much closer now, the beginning of winter update. So I thought I'd just sneak this in at the end. The 700 millibar height anomaly for winter 2018-19 from CFS V2 shows below average heights to the north, above average heights in the middle of the Atlantic. Looks like rather an Atlantic-driven winter, but possibly quite cool, because the ridge is actually kind of a line northwest to southeast from kind of Newfoundland going down to the south of Spain and North Africa. So actually the ridge is displaced a little bit south and west of us. So despite this trough up to the north, actually the air is coming from a fairly long way north from Greenland, and so that will probably be quite a cool scenario. If we was to get any sort of high pressure developing over Greenland, of course, because this Azores high is displaced further south and southwest for normal, then if we was to get heights rising over Greenland, that would entrench much colder air down into that trough. The CFS doesn't show that yet, but when the Azores high is displaced like that away from us a little bit, then the possibility is there that heights could rise over Greenland. Won't any more than that. You might find one or two more models being sneaked in to the daily weather vids over the next couple of weeks as we get, as I say, ever closer to the winter updates, which begin in 1 week's time. Right, been a very extended video today, 24 minutes, but this is looking like quite a significant change now that these shorter range models are picking up on for next week, and I wanted to go over it in depth because we could be reaching quite a pivotal point for this summer, one of those sort of turning points. Although it is too early to say that, they might be overplaying this change. You never know when you're looking at a pattern change within model output. Sometimes they underplay the change, sometimes they will overplay it, they'll overdo it, and we'll find ourselves very quickly getting back to the old pattern. So something is definitely going on, and we've got to wait a few more days to see whether they are overplaying this change to something a lot cooler and a lot more unsettled next week, or whether actually we will find ourselves going back to our hot summer pattern quite quickly. Right, and at 25 minutes, that's all for now. Thanks for watching.